Welcome back to another edition of the Oakland Athletics franchise. We are here for the end of July, the July recap. So July has been finished up and we are going to be heading into the month of August. And here at the end of July, the Oakland Athletics are sitting at 66-35 on the year. So they are doing quite well for themselves. They're still just dominating everybody they face pretty much, as they are first place in the AL West. The second place team is the Los Angeles Angels, and they're 11.5 games back, while the third place team is the Houston Astros, and they're 19.5 games back. So the Athletics have quite a commanding lead on first place in the American League West. Since we're going over the July recap, that means that the All-Star game has since come and passed. So the All-Stars, the Athletics All-Stars, we had 3 starting pitchers. 3 of the 5 starters from the Athletics made it. First one, J.R. Newman, then Sonny Gray, and then Kevin Gausman. While closer, Tony Watson also made the All-Star game. Moving on to the outfield, Chris Davis in left field, he made the game. And then the center fielder, A.J. Pollock, made the All-Star team as well. He was also participant in the Home Run Derby. He did not win it, though. He was eliminated in the second round after he faced Mike Trout. We did have a couple snubs, I did believe. Brady Slayton, I felt like, was a better option than at least the third guy who made it at third base. And I believe that Jose Miguel Fernandez was a much better option at second base than Brett Lawrie. I can understand Altuve getting in because, well, he would get in real life because he's going to be voted by everybody. But Lawrie just doesn't make sense to me. He's not having a good season. He's not a popular player. The guy who's having a great season should be the one who gets in, but he's not. So I think Fernandez definitely got snubbed over at second, and then Slayton as well at third. Moving on to some updates around the roster. Ramon Benitez, our backup catcher, it seems that he can actually hit when he's not starting, and he's not injured all the time. He did have an injury for a bit this season, but he's not out with an Achilles injury for 6+ months or something like that, and he's not relied on to be the starter. He's just the backup catcher, and he's hitting .356, 1 home run, 11 RBI, and 59 at-bats. So he's not really getting a heavy dose of appearances, but he is hitting when he does get an appearance. Clint Robinson has been called up from AAA. He's only had 3 at-bats in the Major League so far, so there's really nothing to go over with him, but he was raking in AAA, and he's called up to the majors to help out. Eric Pedroza, as you saw in a couple episodes, he is back. He is up in the major leagues. He made his MLB debut, and he is now the starting shortstop, as Fernandez has been moved back to second base, and depending on which pitcher we're facing, Solarte is either playing left field or right field. Franklin Barreto, our B potential shortstop, has been sent down to AAA, as he just was not doing very well at all in the big leagues. He was starting, and then he just wasn't doing well, so then he was benched, and he wasn't doing well there, and it just wasn't worth having him on the bench, so he got sent down to AAA so he could play some time down there, still improve. And yeah, so he's only hitting .250 and 40 at-bats in AAA right now, so he's not really showing that he can hit down there right now either, but it's only 40 at-bats, so it can improve. Monty Mason was not doing well in the big leagues at all, so he was sent down to AAA. He was hitting .192 with 4 home runs and 15 RBI and 208 at-bats, and he was starting. He was a starter in the lineup. He was hitting, I believe, 5th against left-handed pitchers. He was playing a decent amount against righties as well, and he just wasn't performing. He was hitting .192, and he only had 15 RBI with 208 at-bats. That is absolutely insane. So he was sent down to AAA. And hopefully he can get his stuff together down there. While Gerard Dyson was also sent down to AAA, the speedster. Disappointed to see him go down because he was a key part of our team, but he was not performing up to par this year, so he was hitting .241 with a .296 OBP. Not really useful when you're a speed guy and you can't get on base. And there's plenty of other guys on our team who can pick up the slack, like Andino's been swiping quite a few bags here this season. And before we go any farther in this monthly recap, we have a trade to go over. This is the end of July, so right before July ended, we made a trade. I felt like we didn't really need to improve on anything. I felt like we're pretty much set for a playoff run, but I wanted to pick up somebody on the bench who can be a guy who can play a lot of different positions. So we looked at the trade block, and the Toronto Blue Jays had Andy Burns on the trade block. And Andy Burns is the type of guy who can play first, second, third, short, left, center, and right. So he can play literally everywhere. So Andy Burns, we picked him up in exchange for Nelson Corcoran, who is a first baseman who I believe was still in single A with us. He has a 62 overall B potential, and a little bit of burns. Like I said, he's not the best bat. He is great defensively. He plays every position except catcher, and he's hitting .234 with 9 home runs and 25 RBI right now. He's a 78 overall C potential. Well, Corcoran is a 62 overall first baseman with a B potential. He's a prospect. He does have the ability to get better, but right now he has great power or good power, and he has awful vision, awful discipline, and awful contact. So he's not going to be hitting for contact. He's not going to be able to get his bat in the ball because, one, he can't see it because he has no vision, and he doesn't have the ability to actually get decent contact. And 3, he's not going to be getting on base a lot because his discipline is absolutely awful. So there's nothing good about the guy. He's maybe going to hit like 20, 25 home runs, but he's going to hit like 190 with like a 250 OBP in the process. So yeah, Andy Burns has him picked up as a guy to have on the bench, get some platoon time, and just all around be a guy who can just be in and out of the lineup all the time because he can play everywhere. Moving on to the lineups against right-handed pitching, we have second baseman Jose Miguel Fernandez, left field Yangervis Solarte, center field AJ Pollock, DH Chris Davis, catching is Kyle Schwarber, first base Matt Olson, third base Brady Slayton, right field Sean Andino, and shortstop Eric Pedroza. While against left-handed pitching, we have second baseman Jose Miguel Fernandez, right field Yangervis Solarte, center field AJ Pollock, left field Chris Davis, catching is Kyle Schwarber, third baseman is Brady Slayton, DH is Clinton Robinson, first base is Jackie Allen, and shortstop is Eric Pedroza. Now, why are some guys who are in against righties only in against righties, and they're not in against lefties, and why are some guys who are in against lefties only in against lefties? Well, that's because Jackie Allen isn't in against righties, because even though he can hit righties, he's not worth taking anybody out of the lineup, but against lefties, he's hitting .357, and he's definitely worth having in the lineup, especially since the guy he's replacing at the lefty lineup is Matt Olson, and Matt Olson is only hitting .245 against lefties, and he only has 4 of his 13 total home runs against lefties, so he's not exactly doing his best against lefties. He's definitely going to be playing against righties, though, as that's where he's really thriving. Kyle Schwarber, you see, has moved down in the lefty lineup because he only has 2 home runs versus left-handed pitching. He's hitting the ball. He has a .272 average, but he only has 2 home runs out of his 17 total against left-handed pitching, so he's not exactly putting up power numbers against lefties. Sean Andino is completely out of the left-handed pitching lineup because he can't hit lefties. He has a 135 average against left-handed pitching, so he's not playing against lefties and only versus righties, so that's why you see the outfield is a bit different. And then Clinton Robinson is the DH instead of it being Davis against lefties because Clinton Robinson rakes left-handed pitching. As far as the award races go, the MVP in the American League, number 1 is Mike Trout. Number 2 is Chris Davis, our very own Chris Davis. Third is Carlos Correa. So right now, the MVP in the American League is a running between 3 AL West players. That goes to show you that the AL West has some pretty darn good players in it. The Cy Young is 2 Athletics at 1 and 2. Number 1 in the race right now is J.R. Newman, then followed by Sonny Gray, and then number 3 is David Price of the Boston Red Sox. So the Athletics are having a pretty darn good season where they have 2 guys in the running for the Cy Young and 1 in the running for the MVP. And that's going to wrap things up here for this edition of the Oakland Athletics franchise, the July recap, as we were heading into the month of August now, as the Athletics are sitting at first place in the AL West, and they have a commanding lead on first place in the AL West. So, I've been your host, Jerseyborn, and I'm saying goodbye.